everyone. It's Steve, and I'm joined by Joe Charman today, which is awesome.
Hello.
The numbers are looking all right. Yeah, hello, Joe. Thanks for joining me, mate. This one's a really special episode for me actually, for a couple of reasons, and obviously one that we've got someone of your caliber on, Joe, someone of your celebrity. Yeah. But yeah, also there's a couple of elements that we're going to talk about, as well as obviously like your success and how you've built your profile out, and from like the days of Vine to TikTok, I suppose.
Yeah.
I also want to touch a little bit on mental health with you, because that was sort of what connected us in the first place, very briefly. Yep. And then obviously I want to get into your obvious like for the NFL and the Raiders. And there was also one video that I saw on your channel yesterday that was you doing some NFL skills. What, 2019? They were putting you through your paces.
Yes.
It looks like you didn't really, you just remembered that.
Yeah, no, that was a mad day. That was one of them things where it was like the day before. I had no idea I was doing it, and they were like, "Oh, we've got this extra spot. Do you want to come along?" And it was like doing NFL drills. I was like, I'll go along. And then I turned up, and there was like Josh Lambo teaching me how to do kicks, right. And Jared Cook from the Raiders was there. Like he was playing for the Raiders at the time. And I got to catch a ball from a drone, and
I saw the drone drop. Yeah, that was quality. And so we'll get into this now. But I was waiting for you to drop a ball, mate, and you didn't drop one. And no, I don't know if that was them being nice to you in the edits, but I thought that's not bad. Like getting that drone drop, mate. That's what did that go up? 50, 60 foot?
Oh, easy. Yeah. And Jared Cook just before me dropped that. Same height, dropped it.
Quality.
Mate, I was so pleased. Yeah, I've got a signed. I don't know where it is in this office. There's so much stuff. He signed my NFL ball for you because he was playing for the Raiders at the time. But he's a great guy. He's a very nice guy.
That's quality. Yeah, cool. We'll get into the NFL in a bit. I want to sort of start off, with your skills thing, and do you know what? Right, I want to confess this, but yesterday, I actually, for the first time, I'd never done this before, but I googled. Are Joe Charman videos fake? And I'm sure you come across that all the time, right? Yeah. Like, are they edited? Is there like some sort of But then, like I said yesterday, I was watching loads of the videos on the channel, and I was like, they can't be. They're like, it's like.
I love that you googled it.
Yeah, I had to. But nothing come up. But like, I was. Do you know what I was sort of hoping for was like someone doing like a debunked video. Like, oh look, I've broken it down, and this is how it's a fake. It doesn't exist. So well done, mate.
got me worried then. I thought you were going to pull up some videos.
I was just kind of. That's the only reason you're on, mate. Yeah.
No, I get it a lot. Yeah. I get it a lot, and which is fair, I guess. It's absolutely fair. The whole point in the way I do my skills. Originally, the series was called Joe's Pointless Skills, and they were just pointless things. They look good, but ultimately, they're not going to get you a career. You know what I mean? Chucking a tea bag in a cup and doing all that. So they were known as pointless skills initially, and then over time. There was only so many times people would allow me to chuck a tea bag in a cup before I had to like up it. And then over the course of the first year, I mean, I've been doing this 6 years now. But it's over the course of that first year, I sort of developed this skills guy character, the whole croaky voice thing and all of that. So it just sort of molded into its own thing. Ultimately, though, they have always remained pointless skills and skills that anyone can do. The idea, you watch my video, you can pick up a tea bag, try it yourself. Everyone's got a hat, chuck it on a banister. It's all that same stuff in and around the house. There are people like Dude Perfect who have, I don't know if you've ever heard of Dude Perfect. They're like trick shot guys. They live in America, and all their skills are like, no one's got a US Army tank to be shooting. You know what I mean? So it's all unachievable stuff. So that kind of stuff. I'm a little bit hurt when people are like, he's faking it. I'm like, if I faked it, I would be doing mad stuff. shooting a flea off a dog's ass with a BB gun.
Yeah,
I'm chucking the tea bag in a cup. Who's editing that?
See, it's funny you said that, because I was going to actually ask, do you not see those sort of questions as compliments? Because they're sort of saying like, that has to be fake, it's that good, you know. But I suppose it can get frustrating that it's sort of like, of course it's real, you know. Like,
the annoying thing is not having the resolution in the argument. You know, someone says, "Oh, it's fake." I go, "No, it ain't." And I go, "Well, prove it." And I'm like, "Well," I'm like, "You're not a boss. I don't have to answer to you. Like, just enjoy the video." It's a weird one. So I get no resolve in sort of rising to it. I just sort of accept it as part of my comments now. And generally speaking, my audience sort of stick up for me a bit. So yeah, I don't mind now. 6 years on, man. I've heard it all.
Yeah. And so I know you're on different platforms, right? And those and I believe if I remember rightly, I found you on Vine. I was like a bit of an addict to Vine. I loved it, right? And you were one of probably about 40 creators on there that I followed. And I do you know what? I can remember initially, and I don't know, this is quite an interesting I don't know why I'm saying this, but like I can remember initially when I first saw a couple of your videos that your catchphrase rubbed me up the wrong way. And I remember thinking like it was challenging. Have you ever come? So for those of you that, hopefully everyone watching knows this, but Joe says, before he does one of his tricks, he goes, "Yeah, I've got skills," in a gravelly voice, does some ridiculous trick shot, and then he says, "What are you going to do about it?" And and I can remember watching that, thinking, "Oh, that's good," and then thinking, "Oh, I don't like that catchphrase." Like like initially, it was like he's challenging me, right? But have you ever come across anyone like have you ever come across anything about that? Like, has anyone ever? I mean, has that ever caused any trouble?
The thing is, with the catchphrase, it's really weird. We were doing I did a live stream on TikTok earlier, and I actually found, I can't find it now. Of course I can't. But I found the original pencil that I did my very first trick shot with. I chucked the pencil behind my ear. Behind the ear. That was the first ever skills video. And I thought, well, Vine is 6 seconds. The pencil shot is going to take 2 seconds, if that. What can I do to fill out the 6 seconds worth of time? Yeah. So I thought, let's do it as if it's like, in a movie where there's a big explosion behind them and they're all sort of like, they come out and they say that sort of classic line that a superhero would say or something like that. But ultimately it's pencil behind the ear. So that's why I kind of put a voice on, like, yeah, I've got skills, chucked it. And then I genuinely, I didn't know what else to say. So I just said, "What are you going to do about it?" And it worked. It was a formula. And that was the thing with Vine. You had to come up with a formula, something regular, a series that people were going to tune into. So I saw quite a few people doing little catchphrasey bits and they were marketing themselves around a catchphrase. So it just stuck. I get it. I totally get it when people are like, "Don't even make sense. What am I going to do about it?" Like, I get it. I get it. But on Vine, it was 6 seconds. You'd watch that video and then you're onto a bunch of other videos. The issue really came when I started to put them as compilations. And when you've got a compilation of about 15 videos and every 6 seconds I'm going, "What are you going to do about it?" And it wound people up. And people got really annoyed. But I never changed it because that's I mean, like it or hate it, it's the internet. You know what I mean? Watch it on mute if you like. Exactly. Watch the trick shot.
Yeah, or watch something else if you're not, if you feel that strongly about it, I think I mean I've come across that in my time running the different online things that I have, is that people try and censor or adjust what you're doing, and you're like, well, you don't have to be here, you choose to be like, you're welcome, like and you can enjoy it and that's cool and I love it, but like, you telling me that you want me to edit it and change it.
The toughest thing is because anyone watching it singularly sort of has that feel like they want it catered to them. They want to enjoy the video, but it's like you can't cater for one person. It's kind of got to be a thing that goes generically across. That's how you build up a social media, like a fandom or grow followers. It's got to be something that's widely enjoyed. If I'm just playing to this guy, only going to be this guy, and then when that guy gets bored, I've got no one left. You know what I mean? So you have to play to a wider audience, and I did stand up before social media, so I kind of got used to. Yeah, that's what got me into it. That's why I started doing Vine. I was trying to do little I did like comedy beatboxing live on stage with Dapper Laughs. Do you know Dapper Laughs?
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Me and Dan were friends 6 years before Vine was even a thing. We were like doing the comedy circuit and all that, and Vine was just we found YouTube was like, how do you make this work? It was just impossible. It seemed a million miles away. When Vine came along, it was so new, and we jumped on it like early doors. I didn't even realize at the time that I got on Vine in the first week that it was released as a platform in the UK. So that's how it was luck, man. We were on it at the right time, and there was only a handful.
How did you come across it then, like that quickly? Was it by chance? Did they contact you, or
no? I think I'd started to see, because it had been a thing in America first. They'd sort of launched it in America, and then I saw these things were coming through, like, have you seen this guy's Vine? I was like, what's a Vine? And it just so happened to like pop up in my like app store or something. I downloaded it, got a little bit addicted. I was like, I could get on this, the looping thing. I was doing beatbox looping with all this equipment here. And so I was doing beatboxes as loops, and that was they were my first Vines. They were beatbox loops that when it got to the end, it repeated perfectly. So that was how I started to build a following. But right place, right time with that kind of thing, man. It really was. And then Dapper blew up massively, clocked his thing, but I was his mate. So he was sharing my videos. And then when he did his first stand-up tour, he brought me along on tour with him, and then that exposed me to his audience, and I grew that way. And then when we started to put our videos on Facebook, we realized, there's only like 40 British Viners, and there's only top 10 of them. So we just got shared by Lad Bible and everything, because it was slim pickings. Just right place, right time, man. There's no, I would love to say, just talented marketing genius, but it was like, it was just kismet. Everything just came together at the right time. And like I said, because I did stand up, I'd learned how to market myself and keep it going. You see tons of people that come in, do one video, and they're known for one video, and then they disappear. But I knew that, to keep it going, it had to be a regular thing. So I just, like I say, right time for everything, really. Right place, right time.
Yeah, and so what? So Vine was the thing that started it. What did you do? Well, how did you take the news that Vine was gone one day? Like it disappeared. Did you see that as potentially detrimental, or did you just think I just need to change platform?
No, it was bittersweet. Because at the time of Vine closing, I had 250,000 followers on it, and that was it was very, very sentimental to me. But a year prior to Vine closing, I'd had major success with my Vines. My Facebook page was called at the time Joe Charman Vines, and they had done so well on Facebook. I'd grown, I think I was up 1.3 million followers on Facebook. So actually closing the door on Vine, as sad as it was was like a portfolio that was just closed. It's like, actually, I've got copies of all that over here. And that was fine, but I knew so many people that didn't make the jump. Yeah, and then
exactly what I was going to follow up with, because there are there was a gap between. Well, for me, there was a gap between Vine closing and TikTok starting. I know Musical.ly was around, and people had been on that platform, and that merged into morphed into it. But I've been on TikTok about a year, I would say, roughly, just before.
Me too.
Just before, this time last year is when I started going on it, and fucking instantly hooked. I was, you can look at your screen time on your phone. I've got an iPhone. You can see that, right? I was sharing it with one of the guys that helps me with Gridiron Hub the other day, and the top thing was TikTok for me. It was like 7 hours, average of 7 hours a week or something like that. I was like, I love it.
7 hours a week, amateur.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know what? It might have been a day. I'm gonna have another look. But I sit on it for ages. I love it, right? And I think it's because it's the closest thing that there's been to Vine, and I was massive on Vine. I used to sit through that and go on it for ages. Right, I was gutted when they got rid of it. And I was never a creator on there or anything like that, you know. But just as a consumer, like, it was just great content. The stuff that people came up with in that 6 seconds,
Yes.
like, and it was funny because it was like goofy, and I haven't seen that goofiness exist in TikTok as much. Like, people would do like stupid things. Yeah, I've seen bits of it, but I think. Obviously, TikTok's a lot more around a lot about dancing as well, which is cool. There can be goofiness in that. There's a lot around. There's a lot around like entrepreneurial advice and how to make money and drop shipping. I suppose, I don't know. Maybe that's just the stuff I see because that's my, you know, that's what I sort of gravitate to. But like, yeah, I find that it's got a lot of different facets to it. Whereas Vine, I would go through like goofy post after and I loved it. You know, like, it was hilarious.
It was the 6 second formula. There was no room for any other slack. There was no room for a setup to a joke. It was like, how do I immediately do the punchline here? And that's what gave it that like mass appeal, is because, you know, you wasn't hanging around for too much stuff. It was just instant, like you say, goofiness happening. And that's where other platforms are fallen prey to it. You know, they give you 15 seconds. You're like, well, I better use it then. It's like, you don't need to. If you've got a funny bit, strip away the fat, do the funny bit. And I am seeing it a bit more, like, especially over the last year, TikTok has really grown because of lockdown. It's given people that purpose. And it is solely a video platform, and that's where the other platforms again fall short a bit. Facebook is just full of political madness, and your friends and family members all just shouting. It's just shouting loud.
What type of cloud are you?
It's mad. And then you go over to Instagram and you're like, yeah, fine, there's lots of good content here, but then it's like, oh, picture of a dog, someone's dinner, dog, and it's like, so you go over to TikTok, it's just videos, and you can just get into it like you could with Vine. So TikTok's my main platform now at the minute. Like, it's not my most following, but I'm putting everything into TikTok now. It feels like the new Vine, and I've not felt that since Vine died, really. Yeah,
that's cool. So this is Will. This is a guy that works with me on Gridiron Hub. He said it was 6 hours a day that I had my TikTok. I don't think it was. I think he's bullshitting. But, it could be. I don't know. That feels like a lot of time to me. I don't think it was that much. I'll be embarrassed if it is.
I know. I get those weekly reports on my phone. And the other day, it sort of congratulated me. It was like, congratulations, you're down 30% from the previous week viewing time you've spent. And it was still like a ridiculous number. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, and that's a lesser percentage than the week before. It was just depressing being told how much time I spend on my phone. But it's the home office.
Off, mate. I know. Well, you've got a better excuse than me. You know, you use it. You know, use it for your.
I bought this. Channel. This helps. This is a lockbox. You put your phone in it, close it.
Do you actually use it?
Yeah. I think it's not a bad thing to admit that you're addicted to social media and on your phone. They are designed purposefully to keep you on them. So to be like, oh, you know, he's addicted to it, you can't help it. They're built that way. So sometimes you just have to be like, you know what? I need 2 hours to not worry about it. And putting it in there and knowing you're not getting it back for 2 hours. It's amazing how quickly you just get on with other stuff. Right. It's the temptation that it's always there, and you pick it up and you just swipe it, and then it illuminates and you're in. Like, so lockbox. I mean, it's well worth it. If you feel that there's actually times of the day where it's like, no, put it in, close it. Don't need it at the dinner table. Everyone's phone's in the box. Close it. It's a good thing, I think.
You just that's my missus.
Oh no, have I just done you in?
Yeah, you've just. I'm gonna have to end this interview, Joe. Oh shit!
I'll send you the link to the lockbox. You can.
I appreciate that, mate. Yeah, thanks. I'll be smashing it against the wall, mate. That's what's going to be happening. I'll get 20 minutes in, I'll start itching.
There was one time I closed it and I accidentally set the timer for too much, and I was like, "Oh, how do I go back?" And I pressed the button, and it put like another hour on it. I was like, "Oh no, I'm going to have to get a hammer." I waited it out.
So one thing I noticed, and you said you did these shows with Dapper. I didn't realize you did that tour with Dapper. I know a couple of my mates that went to it. I think they went to in Portsmouth in the Wedgwood Rooms, and but I noticed, and I don't know where I saw this, but I was like stalking your different social media, and it had the had old videos from around this time last year that you were on a tour with Aaron Kraskell, but it also mentioned that you've got a tour coming up with him. Is that what is that right?
Me and Aaron Kraskell, he's been my friend since the Vine days. We're like, he's my best mate. I talk to Aaron nearly every day, and Aaron got offered to do a tour. They were like, do you want to come do a stand-up tour? He didn't have the first clue about stand-up and was like, I'll only do it if you're involved and you help me, which I was like, absolutely, all over that. I've not been on stage for about 5 years. Since Dapper's tour was kind of when I was like, you know what, I haven't got time to do stand-up anymore. It's all about social media. So I kind of had the time off, and I've been eager for that, just that excuse to make it go again. I'm like, well, better than an actual tour with your best mate again. Like, so I wrote the show with Aaron and another really talented comedian called Tom Parry. And the tour was up and ready to go, and we did our 3 work in progress shows, and they went fantastic. And then COVID hit,
right? And
the tour just got postponed. And then more COVID hit, and they were like, "Oh no, we'll wait till next year now, guys." And we're like, "Oh God!" Coming up to 2021, we ask them like, "So, what do you think?" And they're like, "It's not looking. You know, none of these venues are going to open this year, so it's looking like the tour is probably going to be 2022 now." So it's like, it was so disappointing, man. It was me and Aaron had put so much work and effort into it, and this year was meant to be, Aaron's transition from just a social media person to doing stand-up, and everyone was like, oh, well, what's Aaron going to do on stage? And honestly, those 3 shows, that the warm-up shows we did, he absolutely smashed it.
Did he?
And I'm more gutted for him. It would have been great, I was like his warm-up act and being on stage with him with all my voice changing equipment and all that. It was like a good laugh, but it was so disappointing that those 3 shows went so well, literally 2 weeks before lockdown just completely took that away from us. So it's coming, mate. It will happen. It definitely will. But
what we'll do is we'll buy a few tickets from a couple of areas, and we'll do some giveaways for them as well, just to sort of push it out, because
amazing.
That'll be quality. Because I know, man. And I was looking at where the closest, because I live in Bracknell, right near Ascot.
Okay.
I was trying to look at like where's the nearest one to me, and I couldn't see. I was thinking, there'll probably be one in Reading or somewhere in London, but I think Bristol was like the closest one. I'm not sure. I need to have a proper look.
It was one of them things. I think if the tour had happened, ticket sales were all going really well, and the idea was to extend the tour off of the back of the first run of shows. Aaron not being a stand-up comedian, it was a bit like, let's not overwhelm the guy. And it was like, let's hit the main cities, and then after that, then we'll go and do sort of more smaller local theatres, and then move over to Ireland, and then see where we could go European wise. And it would have been a great thing. It still will be a great thing, but we just have to wait.
No, that's cool. Because like in terms of like the way the COVID has impacted us on in the sport domestically. So like, the NFL's still on, and college football was played to an extent, to a great extent, but there's nothing. Like, so last season, we were right when it hit. We were right at the end of the university. So you're in the UK, it's either like university football or adult kitted. Like, they're sort of like one season then follows the other, right? And that's mostly down to the resources of referees. So there's not enough refs to cover everyone, so they sort of align the seasons, and so they would just get into the to the good bit of the uniball, we call it university football season. We got to the quarterfinals; they'd just been played, so we were just heading to the semis.
Wow!
Done, and they were like, no one's the champion, it's all done, and like everyone that plays senior football was like, oh, we're waiting to start, and I was like, oh, we'll delay a couple of months, we're a year later, and they're looking to now delay this season to like 2 years in a row, and so it's been
heartbreaking,
a bit bad. So like it affects everyone, but it's interesting to hear, like, especially with you guys, with this, you had this plan of like quite a grand plan of what you wanted to do with your careers, and it actually has halted that, Yeah, with us, it's just recreation, right? Like we just can't play the sport we love playing. But
no, but you say that it's athletes in general, man. People have to put so much time and dedication into being able to run about on a pitch for that amount of time. If you go, I think Conor McGregor's just had a classic example of that. He's been out of the octagon for so long that when he went in and did his fight the other day, he's sluggish, out of practice. And you're getting that for so many athletes and the Olympians. You know what I mean? You're talking people that have dedicated their whole life for this one special tournament.
Yeah.
And then it's like, you can't delay it for a year. So much can happen in that year for that athlete to maybe not even be in a state to compete. Like they could just have a horrible accident or, just it's just so much that goes into sport that it's really unfair. And I really feel for anyone that does any kind of, organized sport. That's a tough thing because you train for it for so long to have those little tournaments and your time to shine. When that gets robbed from you, it's like, well, this is just exercise now.
Yeah.
Who wants to do
that's
that?
it. Yeah. I'm just the best at lifting weights. Yeah. But it's, so, well, one of the things that we're concerned about, I suppose more domestically is like, how is that going to impact, so 2 years on, which players have lost interest and done something else or decided that they enjoy their life, in it more like they feel they have an epiphany, like there's more to life than playing sport every weekend. I want to go and enjoy it with people now that I can because I've been locked up, all of these little decisions could add up to teams actually folding and it actually impacting the structure of the league and stuff. So we're still to see the actual impact of all of this, and it's like the sport's not going to die or anything like that in the country, but it's just there's a lot of unforeseen things that we sort of know are coming. And like me myself, they were talking this year of doing so we should be in pre-season now, right? Pre-season should have started January, and then you do pre-season up until April the games start and they go to August, right? That's like the senior season roughly.
Okay.
And so we should be in pre-season now, and what everyone's saying, like people were saying, was and even like the national governing body for the sport saying, well, what we'll do is we'll have some form of the sport, some form of a game like competition, but it will be local. So what that then will do is ignore, which I assume, but it will ignore things like who's in Div 2, Div 1 Premiership. Right. That's the structure, and you'll end up having just these ass kickings where this crap. But just because you're local to them, you've got to play the best team in the country. So like for me, like that actually is worse than waiting. So I've got additional pressures like in my life. Like I've got 2 little boys, right? So is it worth me training, midweek and then on a Sunday and, putting all that time in away from my family, putting the extra stress on my missus to just play into a Mickey Mouse league that doesn't really count? Like there's no relegation, there's no promotion. It's just, at least we get to play. I know for a fact I wouldn't play in that league. Like I'll wait until you're playing it proper again. And I imagine there's a lot of players like me that will, absolutely, sort of a little bit older that have got kids that will be like that. So I mean, we'll see how that ends up. But it's amazing how how different this thing has impacted, all different jobs. Like I started a job 7 months ago, new job, right? I went through a couple of interview stages, a few interview stages. I've worked there 7 months. I've not met anyone.
Have you not?
I do all my work
weird,
here. I sit here. I've not met. I've Zoom and all that. Like I chat to people and got good connections with them. I've not physically seen anyone from that company.
It's so odd, isn't it? It's the weirdest thing. It's the weirdest time. And every time I think about it, I'm like, I can't believe it's coming up to a year. This has just been our lives. Like it's still weird. It's so weird.
So one of the lads said, "COVID baby boom, football over for loads." Yeah, that's the other thing. There'll be a lot of people that I've got a kid now. Completely. You get me in, you bastard.
Yeah, I feel sorry for the people that are like, it goes past a year of lockdown and they're like, you know what? Maybe this is the perfect time to have a baby. Maternity leave, extended maternity. They're going to get pregnant and then lockdown's going to end and they're going to pretty much be in their own sort of lockdown with a baby in the maternity leave. And it's the timing of it. It's going to be a lot of that. There's going to be a lot of lockdown babies. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, we just got this is obviously someone that plays. I just miss American football. Give me something this year. I don't want to wait. See. That's the other mentality, right? Like some people are just like, I don't care. I'm craving it. I want to play whatever format. Like Terrell just put there. That's not me. Like for me, I'm like, I want to win a championship. Like, I don't want to, and I've obviously got these other pressures that that take up my time. But I obviously I don't know Terrell or his life or anything. But like, he's in a position where he's able to just make that happen. But for me, I'll wait until it's proper again. But
I see it's what I don't know too much about, like the English side of American football. I really don't have. I know one of my friends does a bit of coaching for a team. I couldn't tell you the name of any teams.
Yeah.
I've heard plenty of people talk about the British Bulldogs as like a fictional team that they want to make in the NFL. I've heard a lot of people talking about that.
Yeah.
And what team would be called. But I don't even know how that would even fit into the two divisions, the NFC or the AFC.
It wouldn't. There's
no space for it.
To talk to you about it in the UK, I'll just give you a brief overview, right? So there is the way that American football's viewed is that there are two versions of the sport. So there's the full contact version, the pads and everything, and there's the flag version. So, little suspenders about with I'm known for taking a piss out of them, right? Because I like the contact version. But they wear this little belt thing and there's like 5 aside and whatever. But both very popular versions. And then you've got different age groups, just like you would with like rugby or football.
Sure.
But like they're wider banded age groups because there's not as many people playing, right? So like, you'll play like there's I think, and probably someone will correct me if I get this wrong, but under 19s, and then there's like under 16. So you've got 17, 18, 19-year-olds all playing together, and there's actually can be quite a big difference between and it's mixed, so it's lads and it's girls, so you can have quite big differences at that level. Like you see some teams and they're just monsters. You're like, oh god, like they look like look like 30-year-old men. You know what I mean? Like, but,
yeah.
And then you've got the senior or the adult level is like 18 plus. That's divided into 3 tiers. So Div 1, Div 2, Div 1, Premiership. And then those tiers are divided into conferences. So geographically, so you're not traveling too far to play another team. And you can be relegated and promoted between them, right? So every year, the winner of the Premiership, that's called the Brit Bowl. So you got the Super Bowl. This one's called the Brit Bowl.
Amazing.
The winner of that is considered the best team in the UK. And there's a couple of very dominant teams within. There's one in particular. I don't want to go into it because everyone will just kick off in the chat. But there's some very good teams at that top level. It's North and South, the two conferences. So there's huge North versus South. Banter and stuff, and it's good. Like I love all that, right? And what you've also got is a gateway into the European leagues as well. So the European leagues are typically better than ours. So they're semi-pro or pro. This is all amateur level, right?
Okay.
There's no semi-pro or pro in the UK, which is ridiculous, but that's how it is. And what you find is like all the best players that like learn the trade as it were in the UK that show promise. They end up going over to the States. They end up going into Europe to play to play at a good level. But what you'll find, so whoever wins that Premier League level, that Brit Bowl, they will qualify to go into like a European Cup competition.
Okay.
And there's such a difference and such a high demand on whoever that is as an amateur team playing against whoever these other teams are as semi-pro teams, mostly, that they often don't bother taking the opportunity. So I played for a team, and we I think we were 3 years in a row we got into the European Cup competition. I played in it, so I played in like the European thing. Loved it,
amazing.
But it depends on who wins it and if they feel compelled to take in that challenge, because it stretches your resources. Like your squad's still the same size, but now you've got to go and travel, and you've got to win more games, and you're playing against better opponents, and but that's sort of in a nutshell, that's the structure. And then you've got the GB level, for the seniors, so you can represent Great Britain, and you play in there's other tournaments. Yeah, and we're doing. I think. Do you know what? I think we were ranked 3rd or 4th, which isn't bad considering we don't have a domestic semi-pro or pro league, but we do have a lot of very good players that play in those other leagues that are semi-pro and pro. So they just all come back and form.
What needs to happen then for us to get a semi-pro or pro league? Like,
do you know what, mate?
We're just stuck in
like, so you know,
no man's land.
Yeah, so I said to you about we had a live stream once. I went on for 5 hours, right?
Oh right, I opened Pandora's box.
Yeah. So that was actually one in a series that was probably 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. So we've had a huge debate about this. But it's really interesting that that's what you jumped to, and I think you've really endeared yourself to a lot of people watching this, because it's the question everyone asks. It's like, hold on, like, and for me, right? So I told you, like, as a young player, I came back to the UK, having played in the US, and I was ready to play, and there was no one. There was no teams. There was no one. I didn't have. There's no infrastructure. I couldn't find a team to play for. I just want to play rugby again. So I played rugby until I was about 23. Found an American football team and played American football again. Right. It shouldn't have been like that. So one of the things that actually drives me with Gridiron Hub is like, how do we grow the sport so that someone in that situation doesn't have that drought, and when they have to leave the sport, and there's, and I would say the infrastructure is better now. Like, there is more of that, but more to the point, is the sport has been around since the 80s and 90s. I think late 80s is when it started in the UK, and if you ask people about what it was like then, they're like, oh, it was much better, the good old days, and there was more money in the sport. It was called the Budweiser League. Coca-Cola got involved. They paid players like they were, so it was semi-pro to an extent. But then you hear like some Jack and Ori stuff, like, oh, we were on telly every week and we had 12,000 fans every week, and you just it's really strange. There's no historian for the sport. It's like, sure. You just got, there was no social media I can just go back to and check the YouTube or whatever. Like, there's the odd bit of footage, but yeah, it's sort of. It's quite a mystery, sort of like what the sport was like. But what my point in all this is, like, the sport's been around the best part of 40 years, 30 to 35, 40 years, and it's still amateur, right? Like, that kills me. Like, I should have, at my age, when I was, when I came back, or let's say the year 2000, I was around 18, 19 there, right? I should have been able to go on a path that led me to a semi-pro or a professional team if I was good enough. I'm not saying I was like that, but that, like, a player coming from the US into it, like, that pathway should have been there, and it just wasn't, and it still isn't. And that's the problem. And so without going deep into the issue,
I'm still fairly new to, like, the NFL. I've been like an avid fan now for 5 years. I absolutely love it, but I work with the NFL. You've seen a few of my things through social media. I've done a lot with the NFL, and I'm part of, like, quite a lot of NFL UK groups on Facebook, and we chat about the games, and you can tell there's a huge love for it in the country.
Yeah.
I've not heard any of this about any of the English leagues, the games, the Brit Bowl. That's the first time I've ever heard of that. And I'm like, I've got my finger on it, I'm like, I am there listening to people. No one ever mentions it. I'd love to go to the Brit Bowl. Sounds great.
Yeah. Oh, mate, I'd love it. I'll let you know when the next one's on, and I'll hopefully be playing in it. But no, I won't.
What the thing is with the NFL. I mean, they're great. I've worked with them now for 5 years, and the way I got into the NFL, the first game I ever went to was this one down here. I've got the flag still. Dallas Cowboys, Green Bay Packers playoff games it was the 2016 playoffs in the AT&T Stadium, and it was unreal. Quality. Like, I had actually seen it on telly before and, like, tried to get into it. So many stop starts. If you're not into that or don't understand why that's happening, I can understand why people are like, this just goes on forever. But when you're there, and I was with representatives from the NFL, and they were talking me through the game and telling me why this was happening and why they were stopping, and be like, oh, the coach is doing this now, these guys are coming on, these guys are going off. I absolutely loved the strategy element of moving players around and getting that whole thing. So that really got me into it. But my main point in that is the NFL, and what I do is to promote the American League here, trying to get more English viewers to watch the American League.
Yep, that's
whereas
what
realistically, I don't understand with the NFL and the amount of money they have and the amount of power that they hold, why they don't try and set up some separate franchise, just a separate one, just filter a little bit of this money. Like,
so it's just so funny, Joe, because
it's all the same chats that you have, is it?
Well, roughly, but it's just so interesting that you being so raw into this, into this world, as you like, if you like,
and
but being so on point.
This is just the chats you're having on the daily, is it?
Yeah,
I have thought about it, man. I've thought about it, and you see the amount of advertising that goes into these games. They don't just have one sponsor. There's 10 sponsors. They all get bigged up, and the adverts in between. Like, there is no shortage of money. It is a huge, huge thing, and I can't understand why they don't understand that in setting up an English franchise would ultimately then bring more attention to the NFL, because people would just have a love of the game. Sorry, go on.
Someone has elaborated on it, and a lot of this is true. So Slugger from YouTube has said there's no pathway in the UK because it's not financially viable. No promotion by the leagues and by the league and teams means there's no fan base. So what I think he's blaming that on the domestic teams, the domestic level. So there's no fan base, no sponsorship, which means no money on the sport and be able to make it professional. So that's there's always there's always this argument about more should be done. Now, if you ask the NFL UK, like the NFL UK has been set up to help the NFL in the UK, right?
Yeah.
And they want to sell more shirts. They want to make sure every single seat has got a bum on it when the teams are playing over here, and there's big exposure to it. Like, we're a media partner with them, so I actually speak to some of the guys at the NFL too, and they help me out with, like, we've got Jeff Reinbold coming on next week. Oh, I don't know if I've ruined that, but yeah. So like. Shit. So like they help us out. They send us like news articles and all sorts of bits, but yeah, like all of it, as you said, all of it's geared to how do we get the NFL brand grown. It's not necessarily about growing the sport domestically. However, there are a couple of initiatives that they do have that do benefit the sport domestically. So they've got a schools program that anyone, I think it's just called NFL Flag. I can't remember the name of it, but any school PE teacher, someone in charge of PE, a PE person at any school can go to this website and register, and the NFL will come to the school with loads of kit, like flag kit, and teach the basics, teach like a 12-week curriculum to the school, and then they can run it. And they give them balls, they give them everything. So they've got that, and that's been quite successful. And I know one of the lads that's involved in running it. But the idea is that what we want is that at the end of that, they then say to the kids, "Oh, you can go to your local team and play. Carry on playing." Like, it's like the gateway drug into the domestic sport. But we don't see enough. There's no tracking of that, but we don't know that enough of that's happened. It's been going a while. The other thing that they do have that is unique in this country, as in no other country's got it, not even America, is a team called the NFL Academy.
Yes.
Now, have you heard of them?
I went to when the Tottenham Stadium, when they did the big reveal of that. They were running the NFL Academy, and I got to go, and they wanted me to get involved, but I'd actually had a bad skateboarding accident that week. Absolutely messed my knee, but yeah, I got to go and I watched it, and I was like, oh wow, like seeing all these guys doing their thing. But that was like the one and only time, and it was kind of like going there. It was like this surreal experience, seeing this academy being run, and the amount of guys, seeing them go through their paces. They're not mean feats, some of those like drills that they have to do are major impressive. But since then, again, that's one of those things that it was there because I was there on the day. After that, it kind of fell off the radar. Like,
yeah, so
it's like if you know. If you don't, you're
that's
kind of out the loop.
Yeah, I mean, and they did do that. Like, so for instance, like that, the NFL Academy, I think they've got a presence on Instagram and on Twitter, but nothing on Facebook.
Right.
And they used to post quite a lot, but they've sort of died down a little bit. But I suppose there's not as much activity at the moment. But essentially, what they are is what are they? Sixth form, so A level students.
Yeah.
And so they're just before university, right? And just before what you would call college in the US. And so what, like, the idea of that is, to try and identify, athletes that are from, and they're not all just from the UK. Some of them get brought in from other countries. They get an education, obviously that's the number one thing, but then they also get exposure. I mean, like those they're like the most spoiled team ever. And I mean that in a good way. They got to go to the Pro Bowl last year and join in. They got ambassadors that come over. So like F.A. Obada, Jerry Rice, Odell Beckham Jr.
Oh, amazing.
Like, training them, and telling them, motivate. It's dreamy, like what they do. And so you can't ignore that effort that the NFL are doing. That's amazing what they're doing there.
Yeah.
The team have yet to enter a league. So they've existed for a year and a bit. Obviously impacted by coronavirus, but prior. Oh, actually, probably can't 2 years then, because they did have a full year when they could play, but they didn't play. They didn't play any games apart from against each other. So what everyone's really looking forward to, so they're called an academy, right? That's like academy level is A level. There's one other academy which is based in Bristol, and everyone's waiting for these two academies to play each other. Like to see who's going to win, right? But that's going to be the next big step. And I think once that happens and people can see the NFL an NFL team in the UK playing games, I think that will start to help.
My next jump, like my wife's got family in Michigan,
right?
So it's Wolverines, isn't it? Michigan,
that's the college team, decent team,
We've had like massive stadium. I think it's one of the biggest college stadiums as well, isn't it? But I've been eagerly wanting to watch American college football, but it's not really televised here unless you go through some mad illegal streaming services and all that. So I've kind of like been away from it, but I think that would definitely have, like, if you had some sort of televised event. I mean, let's be honest, there's enough channels for it to be televised. Maybe you would start to get a bit more interest. And if the two academies
so streaming sort of started to take off a little bit in the last couple of years, and I think that's going to be the way to go. But if we could get it, I mean, and the BBC Sport, like the red button on BBC Sport, picked up the Brit Bowl final, the last one. So that was actually on again. You'd have to, like, it's like you have to know the secret password to know it, like the handshake to even know it was there. But it was there and it was on. Like it is slowly getting bigger and bigger, but I would say that a lot of the NFL. So the NFL have got two big efforts in the UK, but like it's not. I would say it's not enough to drive, but then they don't have the incentive to drive the domestic game, right?
Sure.
But then you've also got the Jacksonville Jaguars that are the only team in the NFL that have got a UK presence. So there's the Jaguars UK. They run a couple of initiatives that actually do benefit domestically. So they've got this Jag Tag thing, which is flag football tournaments that they run up and down the country. And then they've also got, someone's going to, one of the coaches is watching.
I see the kids doing that at a Jaguars game. I went to that Jaguars game at, that was Wembley Stadium, that in 2019. I see they brought the kids out and they did the Jag Tag thing during like halftime. So I'm aware of that. Yeah.
So that's and that does loads. Like kids absolutely love that, and that's just a bit of fun. But again, it needs, like, what the good thing about that one is it is better. It is a little bit better linked to the domestic game, because a lot of the coaches that are involved in Jag Tag are involved in an American football team locally.
Right.
So they can sort of drive that through. Then you've also got it's like Jaguars Camp. I'm someone's going to kill me for saying this wrong. Someone will tell me what it's called. But they run a full kitted thing where they, and I think it's like over a week or so, or 4 days, I don't know, but they get like some, proper decent coaches and players over to the UK, and these lads pay to get trained, and go through a proper American football camp experience, nice. Living there and all that sort of stuff. And so the Jacksonville Jaguars do that because of the Jaguars UK. The Jaguars UK also run a scholarship scheme where every year they pay for someone's full university education.
Wow.
and it's like a giveaway to anyone that's been involved in British American football or JAG-tag, and no one knows about that. Like even people even people in British American football have no idea it exists. It just doesn't get the exposure it deserves. So there are initiatives out there. It's piecemeal. It's not very well known. Like for example, I imagine that in the games you've been to in the UK, you've thumbed through a program, right? You would have picked up a program. Why is there not an advert about British American football in that program?
I know.
Like it kills me.
The new Tottenham Stadium. I mean, like you've got 4 of the hugest TV screens I've ever seen in a British stadium. There's nothing. Yeah. It's just all. I mean, yeah, it is crazy. It's disappointing, but I do also think it is a matter of time. Like just because of even since I've been a fan of the NFL over the last 5 years, I have seen such a huge increase in people wanting to be part of the games. And, you know, working with the NFL, I've been fortunate enough to go to a lot of the British games. But even the wife was like, you know, getting enthralled in it. It's like, oh, let me come to the next one. And it's like starting to see more and more people sort of gravitate towards it. And especially on the groups, you see someone, you know, the rivalry between households. It's like, you know, some guy in a Vikings thing. It's like, oh, look at the wife in her Packers kit. It's that's great. Right, that's absolutely brilliant because you wouldn't get that ordinarily if it was English football. You're like a household that supports one team and one team only, and the kid is raised to support one team. And so definitely seeing a lot more people having more fun with NFL and American football, which is great because ultimately, most of the time when I tell people I'm into America, well, what do you watch that crap for? You want to watch proper football, English football.
Oh, we get
that. That's a huge hurdle to get over initially, is getting people to just stop being like, I don't know why it's their main argument as well. Why is it called football when they use their hands?
So I think, do you know what? And I think the name, the 2 words of the name, American and football, are the 2 things that are turning people away from it. So that's why, do you know what? That's why we're called Gridiron Hub. I don't know if you know, but gridiron. Have you heard the word gridiron before?
No, I haven't.
So gridiron is right. So I'll get there's 3 forms of football, right? You've got association football, which is soccer, like normal. That's why it's called soccer actually, because it comes from the word association. You got rugby football, which is rugby, and then you've got gridiron football, which is American football. Okay. But the problem is in America. So in the UK and the rest of the world, when we say football, we mean association football, right? Soccer football.
Yes.
In America, when they said football, they meant gridiron football.
Right.
And so, unfortunately, the moniker came out of it. Oh, it's American football rather than just calling it gridiron. So gridiron is actually the name of the sport, and that's why I called it Gridiron Hub, because it was like me being a bit of a traditionalist. The gridiron came from it used to be played on a gridded field. So instead of the lines that they are now, they used to be more long lines, if you like, going along, not just the sidelines all the way along. And it was like squares, so it was on a grid, and they called it gridiron. So that was that's where it came from. But
I mean, I've always compared it to like chess, you know, in the strategy, and that would have made it even more so.
If you coloured every other one in. You call your wide receiver a bishop or something. But so I want to get into now that we've gone. Do you know what? I love the fact that you were so interested on the ball with British football. But I'll definitely let you know when it all starts back up again.
I'm all over it. I'll
let you know where. There'll be teams local to your area. I'll let you know what they are and whatever. But what I do want to understand a little bit more about is why are you what drew you to this sport? Like, was it a friend? Was it a family member? Like, why are you now sat there in a Raiders jersey with a Raiders sticker on your mic?
I do. I love it. I do love it. I've got my mug up there. I've got my sign.
And I see in a lot of your videos there was the NFL and a lot of Raiders gear you wear. And that's what got me to message you about this actually.
People are going to hate me because this is an official thing, and people are going to be like, "Oh my god!" And a lot of people, I would imagine, are going to hate me because of how amazingly lucky I've been. I wore a Raiders hat because of the hip hop connotations. I loved the logo.
Compton.
Loved it. I love it. So I see a couple of people wearing a Raiders hat. I was like, love a Raiders hat.
Are you talking about like NWA?
Yeah, yeah.
Easy E was famed for wearing a Raiders hat, right?
Absolutely. Right. Ice Cube and all those guys.
Yeah.
But I loved it. I liked the logo. I knew of it, but I was like, I wore the hat. So I got a Raiders hat. And then one of my friends got invited by the NFL to Texas, Dallas, Texas, to do like this NFL experience. And they were like, we don't really know any other influencers that would come along. Do you know anyone? And he saw that I was wearing a Raiders hat and was like, oh, my mate Joe might be interested. He called me up and was like, dude, do you want to come to Texas with me next week? I was like, fucking yes. Like, just go to Texas. Someone's going to fly me out to Texas. Absolutely. So I went as a fake NFL fan, like completely oh yeah, I love it. Just purely for a free holiday, mate. That was what I was like jumped on. But because of that, I went to the Dallas Cowboys AT&T Stadium. Absolutely amazing stadium. They were flying a blimp around the stadium. I've never been.
Yeah, that's a big thing. The Goodyear blimp. That's synonymous with a game, right?
Unreal.
Game. Yeah,
unreal. So yeah, I got into it by like complete accident. But yeah, because we were there officially with the NFL, we had amazing seats. It was so good. But beforehand, I'd never been to a tailgate. All these things were like things I'd seen in a movie. You know, they weren't real things to me. And then all of a sudden I was at this tailgate party. At the time, the skills thing was kicking off. So I had all these like NFL fans like hoisting me up, like, come play beer pong over here. Come do this with us. And it was absolutely mad. And the Green Bay Packers, man, I swear, if I wasn't like a Raiders fan, because I was like, well, I've got to choose a team. I'm sticking with the Raiders thing. So I've gone with that. You know, I had no other reference to who to choose. I was like, well, I'm wearing the kit. Let's check out the Raiders, and yeah, I love it. And I actually now like really like their history. And during that trip, I met Larry Brown, who's Super Bowl MVP for the Raiders, and that was like you know, it was all just a very cool experience. But if I wasn't a Raiders fan and I'd gone over there completely fresh, I think I would have been a Green Bay fan, even though the NFL had bought us there to the AT&T Stadium. Yeah, give me a Dallas Cowboy kit. It was, you know, and but it was the Green Bay fans, the cheeseheads. It was absolutely amazing. They were mental. I had the most wild time out there, and because I was there officially with the NFL, I had one of their people sat next to me explaining the game, and by the end of it, I was like vibrating with how much I loved it. And because I gave up on sport years ago, man. I was a Man United fan growing up. And I got enough shit for that, for supporting Manchester United. Oh, you're from London, Sport of London. I was a skateboarder and a drummer. That were my thing, and I did that for so many years. And sport was just one of those things I left in the dirt. And American football, the fan base, just it was something new for me to be like, you know, enjoy. And then actually I found out a couple of like mates that I'd met through stand-up were into it, and it was like, oh, this is a thing now that we can meet up. We have a reason to meet up on Sundays to watch football. And man, just from then I've absolutely loved it. But I don't mind admitting that I sort of got into it through luck and jamminess. And actually,
I think everyone listening to your story of how you broke into the sport is going to be completely envious of it. It sounds like you had like the platinum version of how to become a fan, right?
Completely. And some of my mates, I make a deal of like, you know, you saw that thing where I went and did the like combine experience where I got to meet the NFL people. Ordinarily, like I have guys that come and help, like when I'm doing physical stuff and I need a cameraman, I have people as part of my production company that come and do that for me. But if it's an NFL experience, I'll get one of my mates that's an NFL fan. It's like, come enjoy this with me. Like, you know, you're going to get more out of this than probably I am. Like, they love it. They love being a part of it. And any, it sounds so bad, but any free tickets I get to games, I always make sure an NFL fan comes with me rather than another influencer that doesn't care. Like, it's because it's great. It's a great day out. It's a great thing to do on a Sunday. It's like part of my schedule now for the year. Like, I mean, the Super Bowl is the one I work with the NFL a lot. The Super Bowl is the one every year. I slightly nudge them like, I don't suppose you want to fly me out there. I've not landed it yet, but
you'll get there, mate.
It's just how it happened. You know, part of me, I feel bad because there are NFL fans that would die for this kind of experience. But thanks, Will. I appreciate it.
You got a new fan there.
He's just after my next free ticket, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I like free tickets, Joe. So with I was watching some of your content, and you did this video, and I don't know if this was a sponsored video, but recently you did a video where you were stood in front of you were back to a wall. We had cups. NFC, AFC.
I've just taken it all down, but it was
on your own wall there, was it?
On my office wall, yeah.
And you're lobbing a table
home studio. No, this is the home studio.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, no, it was an official sponsored post. And,
was it? Right.
Yeah. Basically, the NFL are realizing that it's an awkward. Where do you begin as an NFL fan? You know, I was quite lucky, sort of chucked into it, and I loved it. But it's like, where do you start? Who do you choose? And they've got this like new team generator website, and it's ridiculous. You go and answer some questions like, you know, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite food? What's your favorite American state? Blah, blah, blah. And they compile all of this and be like, well, we've accumulated this, and you must be an Arizona Cardinals fan, like, because you like red. But I mean, it's no different to how I fell into it. In all honesty, I like it first and foremost. So it's kind of a way of getting you like into a team. So they were like, if you had a way of doing it, how are you going to sort of come up with a random team generator?
So they asked you. They didn't say, "Oh, we've got this idea."
Oh no, I built that. I built that all myself. That was all my own doing. Yeah. And 11 million views on TikTok. That's got now 11 million views. So I'm doing my bit, man. I'm trying to get these new.
Is that your most viewed?
Most viewed brand deal I've ever done. My most viewed TikTok by a long shot. And it was targeted specifically for UK fans. You know, any American is going to go for their state, or, you know, where they're from, or some sort of affiliation that way, or a team that maybe initially was in, you know, Raiders were originally LA, then Oakland, now Las Vegas. I would imagine there's still LA fans that have hung on to the fandom of Raiders, regardless where they've moved to. But for the UK, it's like, where do you start? You know, most of the teams are Jacksonville Jaguars, Arizona Cardinals, you know, Minnesota Vikings. So if you don't have an affiliation, most people that I've spoken to are like, what are the New York teams? Because New York's just what they know and what they kind of like. Yeah. I have to say to them, like, you find somewhere else. Find somewhere else. Yeah, right. The Bills, go.
It's about the best one you can get at the moment.
It really is.
Someone just said, I watched Brady in the 2004 Super Bowl, will end up a Pats fan. I think, do you know what? I think that's been the case. So what I come across a lot of in the UK, New England fans, and I think part of that's because of the whole dynasty, you know, the big winning thing, but also England. Yeah, England, that helps.
It's what my dad said. My dad doesn't watch it, but he knows I'm a Raiders fan, and, you know, I have little chats with him here and there, and he goes, how are the Pats getting on? Always ask me, because he said that if that was his team, that if he was into it, that would be his team. It's just the England connection.
Yeah, and I think the colours of them, the red, white, and blue, you know, the same the same as the flag, British flag, you know. So I could see why there's a lot there. Then there's Miami, the Bears, and the Raiders. Those are I would say those are the four main teams that I hear the most that there are fans for. Yeah. And I think the Miami is a lot to do with, like, well, all of those is all to do with their success when the sport first came over to the UK. Everyone always says, "Oh yeah, I remember watching it on Channel 4," and I don't remember watching it. I don't remember, you know, I was a kid. But a lot of people say that's how they got into the sport, was when it was on Channel 4, and the teams that were quite dominant back then were Miami, the Raiders, and the Raiders were more the end of the 70s, but I suppose near that era.
You know, the merchandising of Raiders, you know, I went past a New Era, you know, New Era hats. Their whole window display was Raiders gear, completely like no other team. UK? Yes, in Carnaby Street in London. Their whole front window, nothing but Raiders. And I see a lot of people, I've had people come up and ask me, like, are you actually a Raiders fan? Because so many people wear the merch with no affiliate, me being one of them initially. You know, so many people wear the merch without having any sort of affiliation. And I've started to see a lot more of that with the Vikings. Logo wise, I don't know the English thing and the whole, you know, we're descended from Vikings. I've seen a lot of that. Especially over the last couple of years, people gravitating towards the Vikings.
Right. Someone's come up here, and I think I know the answer to this one, but let's pop it up. This is Tiro. He's come back. Joe, would you play American football in the UK?
I was about to say I'm too old, but then I think I'm insulting quite a lot of people there.
Well, I'm considered too old. I'm probably about the same age as you.
I'm 33. I'm 33.
Oh, you're 33. God, I thought you were more my age. Sorry, mate.
Tough paper round.
Yeah. No, your prime age for playing in the UK.
I think I would love to. I'm always one of those. I'm a little bit embarrassed to make a fool out of myself. You know, I've gone and chucked a ball around, and I think I quite like the idea of being a quarterback, but I realise that is probably one of the most sought after positions. And you know, I just don't know whether. So would that be?
Yeah, that's another question actually. So rather than play, if you were to play, what would your position be? You reckon you'd try and go for quarterback?
Yeah, and
like
I mean,
it's
not the glory element of it, because you know, growing up, you see like the quarterbacks in the films are like the archetypal American man in his Letterman jacket, and he's gets the girls, and he's like so celebrated in his home team, like hometown. And so I don't see myself as that, but just the throwing and the accuracy, and I you know, anyone that's ever picked up an American football that doesn't play, when they throw it just wobbles about in the air. There's a skill to get in the spin, and all of that massively appeals to me. So I think definitely that is a position. I think I'm a fairly good catcher, and I'm pretty fast on my feet. But I think quarterback is something I'd like to do. So maybe look, after lockdown, I'm well interested in exploring the UK side of things. So maybe you can link me up, and
mate. Yeah, well, it's funny because we've got a non-profit side of Gridiron Hub. That's named after my daughter, so that we give money away in her name, right? So we raise money through like online raffles. So we do like signed NFL gear. Actually, I'll have to send you that. You might be interested. But yeah, so we do raffles for signed NFL gear, raise money, and then we give that money away to clubs and organizations, and also like if someone's like running a marathon for someone that passed away or something, but they play American football and they're doing it in their kit, then we'll give them money for that as well. So like charitable, like any related charitable events, but also things that help grow the sport. And like we've just taken over a brand that helped us set it all up called Hail Mary Hits. And between us and Hail Mary Hits on our platform over the last 2 years, we've given away just about 60 grand worth of things.
Wow.
Like, yeah. So like, but we don't scream and shout about it enough. And what I want to start doing is using a marketing budget to create videos that people are going to want to watch, that we can then sort of armbar into it and say, yeah, you can also buy these join in with these raffles to see more of these type of videos. So things just like what you did, like I'm thinking about buying a drone and doing a drone ball drop, you know, going to like a training session and like having like a, I don't know, like tug of war, and whoever wins gets 100 quid each, and just stupid little things to give away some money. But then we put all that into a video, like a 5-6 minute video. And then the idea is that people share the video because it's like got cool stuff in it. But then we, you know, promote the non-profit within it. So when we get that underway, I'll give you a shout, mate, and you can come down and we'll go to a club. I don't know, well, you said you're London based. We'll find one in London and we'll go there.
Amazing. Please do. I would love that. I would really, really love that. I've just seen, quality. Sorry, I've been distracted by
the wee sitting down one. The QBs get loads of stick, mate. Like
I know.
Yeah,
I know that because Derek Carr gets a lot of stick, right? You know, Derek Carr, bless him, man. The guy gets sacked a lot. Like people go gun after Carr, and he gets a lot of stick for throwing the ball away in order to not get slammed. And I know, I'm like, I would be the same. That's why a quarterback as well. I like to hang back, and I would probably do the same rather than getting clattered. I mean, if Derek Carr got clattered as many times as people actually go for him, if you didn't throw to ground, it'd just be a mess, mate. So we sitting down is way more comfortable.
Yeah.
I don't know what you want me to do. Do handstand piss. Like there's only a few options to go for. I mean, realistically, come on, we're not going to deny that sitting down is way more comfortable, and you get the glory and the money and the girls and the Letterman jacket. So everything about it is.
There you go. You got someone agreeing with you there. Oh no, maybe he's agreeing with this one. What about a Gridiron Hub tournament? Yeah, I get asked about this. So like, should we run a Gridiron Hub charity game or should we do tournaments? And I've always steered away from it just because of like we did the guys watching this will know a lot of people joined in. But we did a Madden tournament. We did 3 Madden tournaments online,
Okay,
and
cool.
I was and me and a couple of the lads were like commentating it, and we were like, "This is how I got used to this software," you know, like you like. Because we would like add the gameplay on them, and we ended up just talking nonsense and just talking about why British American football isn't professional and stuff while this game's going on in the background, and that's where we come up for the idea for this live stream. but yeah, so but just organizing those tournaments was an absolute ball ache.
Yeah, okay.
And I did like. I started calling out people for doing stupid stuff, like backing out of games and saying their internet dropped, and just and then I realised I don't want to be doing that sort of stuff. And then I ended up taking these posts down. So like, I think I'm too emotionally charged to get that. Like, I'd rather just be a player in it, like sure. I'll turn up and I'll play. Like I don't want to be the organizer. So yeah. I don't know. I do like the idea, like, and this is why. I wanted to do something for the game, and that's why I came up with the idea of the Amelie Fund and giving money to the sport to help it grow because it aligns with everything that I say and try and do for the sport, But I don't know that we ever will do a tournament but I don't know. We may do a charity game at some point, but I just if someone comes forward and says, "Steve, I'll organise it," you just put your name on it. Okay, yeah, right then. Yeah, can I play? Can I play middle linebacker?
It's always the best. Turn up, do your bit. Leave at the end of the day. Yeah, because someone else is left sweeping up the crap.
Like what is probably quite a minor thing, I consider it a slap in the face. I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Like I don't think. Yeah, I'm not made in a way that can take that type of responsibility on and just brush things off. I think I'm just too emotionally connected to it all.
And even if you did arrange it, the whole day you could go without hassle, and then you just get that one comment online of someone being like, "Well, the refreshment area really was subpar." They're the one that you get. Oh, well, I'm never doing it again. Yeah, it's like nothing to do with the game.
Yeah, the disabled access ramp was too steep. Fuck off.
Yeah, no, mate, I'm on a hair. I'm on a fine line most days where I'm just like the smallest little thing could just tip me, and it just ruin me. So, yeah, steer clear of the stress in life if you can.
Yeah, exactly. So one thing I just realised that I didn't cover off that I want to go back to was why isn't there a team in the UK? So interestingly, so we said the Jags are probably Jags are always the favourite team to come over and be a British franchise because they've got the Jaguar UK set up. Yeah. Their owner owns Fulham Football Club. Right. So like there's always this connection. But then you could also say the Glazers own the Bucks, right? So, but the Glazers, the Bucks don't have a UK presence. But so I used to work for Microsoft, right? And Microsoft, they've got the sideline deal for the, like the tablets that they've got, the Surface tablets. So when you see like Brady sat down on the sideline, he's got a blue Microsoft tablet. Right. So they've got a deal for that, right? Like they pay millions to have that happen. And when I worked at Microsoft, there was a guy in the UK that ran Surfaces. He ran the Surface business, and I asked him about what sideline software they've got. Because I was like, I might be able to see if we can get that for our teams in the UK. And he was like, and he said, and we sat down and he was interested, and I actually hooked him up with someone at the national governing body. And then I said to him, is there ever going to be do you know if there'll ever be a British, a NFL team in the UK? And he went, yeah, at the moment it's supposed to be the Rams because they don't have the, and this was like 5-6 years ago. And he went, they don't have the attendance in LA where they are, so they're looking to move. And he went, and he said, I don't think I'm supposed to tell you that. And I was like, oh, the Rams are going to come over. So obviously they didn't. They moved. The Raiders moved and the Rams got their new stadium, and that's how they've decided to do it. But I know there's constantly talk between the sponsors and between everyone that runs the NFL and the NFL UK of could a team come over, and this guy that was part of the Surface team explained to me what they're trying to build up to is can they fill enough games in the UK to last the season? So the season's 16 games long. Can they fill 8 games? And that's what they were building up to have 8 games in the UK. So it started with 1, then it went 2, then it went 4. Yeah. But then there was pressure from Mexico, and they started to. I don't think they ever played a Mexico game, but then they started to they booked one in Mexico, and then there was some problem with the stadium, and they stopped it.
Right.
But the basically the other countries are now latching on to the fact that the NFL are looking at bringing a franchise somewhere else, and they're trying to attract the NFL to them. So I like, as long as the games, I suppose when we get to the stage of there's 7-8 games a season over here and the stadium's full up, we know we're right on the cusp of it. But until then, we're not. Like that's sort of my. And I wouldn't call myself an insider on that, but that was my business level discussion that someone had with me who was a major sponsor for the NFL, who didn't know that, he basically gave me too much information and was sort of questioning himself.
It's always the best.
But,
and then you can leak it on a live stream.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's 5-6 years later when I know I'm not working there anymore and I'm safe. But and hopefully he's not working there either, because imagine that. Will's put they'd fill 8 games easy. Yeah, I think so. But they're just sort of they've just been very careful about it. But then when I saw that game in Mexico, I was like, oh, they're looking at that as well, because Mexico's close to them. It's
well, like you say, if it's sort of like you've got the pro and the semi-pro tournaments going on in other parts of Europe, there'd be argument to say that it could be snatched away from England, without it being so well represented here.
Germany and Austria are arguably the two most developed countries for domestic league, the most talent, and you could easily say that like they've got bigger markets for it, and they would absolutely fill these games. I honestly think the only thing that's kept the UK in it is the common language. And it's we both speak. We both speak a version of English. I genuinely think that's been the main reason.
I wouldn't have even thought of that, but it makes total sense.
But the market and the maturity of it is bigger in Europe, without a doubt.
Yeah.
So Ryan said, I don't think that they didn't have one that didn't sell out. Also, Ireland get a college game of Notre Dame play there. Yeah, they do. Yeah. What else is there? I knew this would kick people off. There's a lot of fans like me who are too loyal to our NFL teams to support English teams.
Completely.
So that's an interesting thing. But then equally, Terrell, there are people who I know who say that they support ex NFL team who said, well, but if there was a UK team, that's obviously who I'd support. So I do think you'd get, because the other thing I noticed about and I've not been to an NFL game in the UK, right? I've only been to one in the States. But what I do know of them is that you get representation from every single team, all 32 teams' jerseys. Like there's fans for both teams that are on the field, but there's fans for every other team that's there. Plus, you get people that from Britball, the British game, that wear their jerseys there as well, which I think is quite funny. But yeah, so like I think at the moment, because it's almost like every game's an exhibition game, you don't have that fandom. They don't have that fan base building because the teams change every single time. But if you did have, a constant team that was based in the UK, you would start seeing more people in those jerseys and supporting that side. I'm sure.
I think I'd definitely keep hold of it, because ultimately with every season, I end up supporting 3 teams. Raiders being my team.
Yeah.
If we don't make playoffs, I'm like, well, who is in playoffs? I find someone that I like. And this year it was Green Bay. And then obviously they're not in the Super Bowl, and I'm going to watch the Super Bowl. I love the Super Bowl. So I've got to have a team for that. And me being an avid hater of Brady, I'm going Chiefs, even though
you're a Brady hater.
Oh God. Yeah. He's the GOAT, right? I will absolutely admit, right? If Brady wins the Super Bowl this year with a whole different team, I will accept. I will finally
bow
say
to him.
He is the GOAT. He's just not my GOAT. He's not. It's more to me than stats and numbers and how many rings you've got. It really is. It's. There's what I think Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers are like 2 of my favorite quarterbacks. They're and I'd say Derek Carr even comes below them. I love Derek, I really do. But I think Mahomes is just another level. Like and Aaron Rodgers is got an arm like a cannon. It's unreal. Like so they're my goats over Brady, and again Brady with the whole Patriots fan base being so like because they just win all the time. Brady being this classic, like what we were talking about earlier, the classic jock. He couldn't look any more like he's from a High School Musical movie. You know what I mean? And then with his little arm computer. Oh man, no one needs that many rings on a hand. Tom, what are you doing? Jog on, mate. He's got that kind of like Lance Armstrong, just that sort of just general sort of, I don't know, bit smug. And I know you can't help it, but anyone that wears the little black thing, I'm like, oh, come on.
I've got to ask you, do you know what that's for? Like, do you understand?
I get it. It's for cheaters. Like I say cheaters, I mean the actual animal. They have black under it to stop sun glare. So that's why people do it. The bit of grease stops the sun glare. But I'm like, you're playing in these huge stadiums, Tom. What's the sun is going in your eye?
Apparently, yeah, it's been like, I think it's like myth busted. Like I think they've looked at it and it doesn't do anything. But yeah, those people that do, we call it eye black, right? So eye black, people that do wear it, just like within the British.
If you were going to do that for the reason that I think, which is the sun glare, you would wear it driving high on the cheekbones. He wears it here. It's a fashion statement. Jog on, Tom.
So it's absolutely for. I know it's like part of like. Almost like war paint and like preparation, but also people also wear it for like intimidation as well, like because they look the part. But yeah, I've never
just smear feces on your face. That's way more.
Yeah, no, it's just never. Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, that'll keep people away. Yeah. It's yeah, ban eye black. Yeah, people like we have there's people in the UK that wear it, and we always have a good laugh with them. But the other thing in the UK that people go on about a lot is bicep bands. So these are little thin bits of elastic that people wear around their arms, and they don't do anything. They don't mean anything. That's a common source of like, I don't know, people taking the piss and having a laugh.
I can't remember what Super Bowl it was, but Patriots were in it maybe a couple of years ago. And I knew there was our Super Bowl party that we did. I knew there was a couple of Patriots fans. So I got these like the transferable tattoos.
Yeah,
like the stick-on ones, and I had Brady sucks in the black paint. It just said Brady on one cheek, sucks on the other, and that was my way of getting it. I can't help it. I will accept that he is probably the greatest of all time. He's just not my greatest of all time. So
yeah, fair enough.
Just how it is. It's as much fun to support a team as it is to hate someone else completely. Like.
Yeah, well, see, I don't actually support a team in the NFL, but I love like when I watch a game, I'll pick someone just to make it a bit more interesting. So I've got someone to back,
completely.
Oh, I would like them to do better on offense, when they've got the ball, sort of thing. But
mate, I hate Pittsburgh Steelers purely because their logo to me reminds me of a petrol station. Like, there's no reason to hate a team. There's no reason. It's just I've got to have a reason, so that's my reason. Like,
it's funny you mentioned it. We did this. We did a live stream the other week where we ranked all of the logos in the NFL, and I had a particular issue with the Steelers one. I was like, I don't know what a Steeler is, but I don't know what that picture is either. And then people were like, oh, it's traditional and, iconic. And we said, well, it doesn't matter about tradition and like iconography. We were like,
no, it matters about how good the logo. It looks like a 7-Eleven. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah. But, we're doing, I think it's next week. Oh, no, it might be Friday. Oh, yeah, Will asked me to plug it. So I'll do that now. That'll shut him up. We're doing another live stream on Friday where we rank the Division 2 Senior Bowl logos, and I will probably correct me because I got that wrong, but I'm fairly sure that's what it is. There's 3 of us on there, and that gets quite funny because everyone, like, everyone sort of is quite mature to an extent in the chat until you get to their team, and they're like, "No, I don't agree with that." Well, that's because Lincolnshire is this shape. I'm like, fuck off. I don't care. So and they're like, oh well, clearly, you're not a man of culture. You don't know the Bury St Edmunds area. You're like, no, I don't.
No.
I don't care. Your logo shit. It looks, it's a wolf. But anyway, yeah. So that's what they're always a good laugh. But yeah, I think people get animated. In those sort of discussions because you're talking about their team and you're talking about something that they love and that they're interested in. But yeah, so. There's one more thing I want to talk about before we finish because we're going to wrap up now, Joe. If that's cool.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
And that was this is I didn't really want to save this till last, but we've done it that way. But this was a mental the bit about mental health, and the reason the very first time I contacted you, it was probably about a year and a bit ago now.
Yeah,
about a year ago, was you posted, and I must have picked it up on Instagram because I'm fairly sure it was an Instagram story that I was tapping through. Right, it may have been a Facebook one, but it was a story that I was tapping through, and I was watching it, and it was you opening up and talking about your own approach and how you deal with your own mental health, right? And the reason that I contacted you was, so I mean, even now I'm still going through quite a difficult period because I've now been diagnosed with PTSD, and I'm waiting for therapy, but I've got to wait until they allow face to face again, and coronavirus has ruined that. But yeah, so I was listening to it, and I don't know. I would say prior to my daughter passing away, I wouldn't have listened to mental health stuff. I was probably a bit more hard nosed to it, right? But I did listen to it, and there was one thing that you said in it that, and I said this to you earlier, like this was what resonated with me. And the thing that you said within the, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember it verbatim, but it was something along the lines of, if you do have issues with mental health, it's okay. One, it's okay to talk about it, but in talking about it and just putting it out there, your own view on it or your own story, you could unlock something within someone else that helps them, and it's completely. And that honestly was it was like you put the magic words together, and I was like, that's exactly how I feel about it. And I just wanted to give you some sort of time to talk through that, and what got you to the point where you where you wanted to post that, and how important is it to you even now that you maintain that approach?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, look, the main thing that we all have in common, if you suffer with depression or, I mean, it's such a broad thing, but ultimately it leaves you all feeling the same. It doesn't matter how you got there. You're there now, and a lot of people feel the same way. So that opening up thing, I mean, that I was never one to talk about it. And what I really, really helped me was learning that everyone's depression or mental health situation is relative to their own life experience. And I suffered a long time because I felt I couldn't talk to my mates because my problems were so it seemed like nonsensical to someone else that was going through financial difficulty for me to be like, oh, well, my social media career is not really going well. And it's it seems so, because they'd have no reference to that. You know what I mean? But my job is still a job, and their job is still a job. And talking about it, you find common grounds about what's not working in your life. And it was that opening up and realizing that, my problems are stupid, but I'm not, this guy's got problems as well, and we can just chat through them, and actually helped having an outsider's perspective than constantly going around in your own head. You're your own worst enemy. You'll only ever beat yourself down, and it's easy to get happy, but it's even easier to stay sad. I don't know what it is about the mental condition of people. When you get down, man, you just wallow in it. You dig yourself even deeper and deeper, and you drag up stuff that happened years ago and throw that into the mix, and then it becomes harder and harder and harder to just find that happy place. You might have little spurts of happy, but ultimately, without you've got to think of it as like a suitcase. You just keep stuff in it. Eventually, because it's too heavy to carry around. You can't carry it around. If you distributed it amongst several other people, they can each carry a little bit of an item for you.
That's a great analogy.
You go around feeling a lot lighter about it, and it was a real big revelation for me doing therapy and going to talk to a specialist. Man, that for me was I don't know, I don't want to say lame, but something about it just felt so icky to me. I don't need therapy. I don't need someone else, a shrink writing down. But I swear to God, I mean, if you get the opportunity to go and sit in a room with someone that has no reference of you, they don't care who you are. They don't care what your job is. They've got your name on a bit of paper, and that's that. You're just there to chat. That helps massively, and I suppose it maybe felt the same to you. Coming to me, we're not friends now, mate. But we weren't friends.
No, you're right.
We weren't friends, but that took a lot of courage for you to come and tell me your story, and it just dropped me that in a DM. But ultimately, we're sharing a little bit with each other, and it might not be the whole thing, man. I couldn't ever take that away. What you've gone through is so heavy, but sharing it with me and me having a little chat with you means that it keeps a little bit of a bond. And if you share that amongst enough people, it actually becomes a common, a shared experience. And it's a lot easier to cope. And then in you doing that means that someone else is going to be like, oh, Steve opened up to me. Maybe he'll listen to me. And then they'll come and say it to you. And you, man, that one person coming to you being like, I'm having a bit of a tough time. It don't matter how much they're saying. You don't know how much they're withholding. What you actually say to them, man, you could potentially be saving someone's life. It's that, like, I never thought I'd get into a situation where I'd try and kill myself, but got there somehow, man. Got there somehow. And I look back at it now and I'm kind of like disengaged from it. I look back at it as like a weird out of body experience. I can't believe that actually happened to me.
Yeah.
But genuinely, like, in having little chats with people, you can share it and just get through it together. It's never going to go away, man. You've got, there's deep problems. They'll never go away, but actually learning how to live with those and letting people into it so that you're not all harboring it yourself. So important, man. So that's why I wanted to chat when you mentioned, like, oh, do you mind talking about it? It's like, absolutely. Any opportunity I get to say it to a wider audience needs to be said, and not to take away from anyone else, but men in particular, man. We've got, you grow up in this world of like man up and men don't cry, boys don't cry. And like, we're so sort of ostracized from our own emotions that when you start to feel those emotions, you kind of be like, oh, well, I won't bow down to that. And that's tragic, man. We're only human. We're, you want to have a good cry, man. That can actually help you so much. Like, it's an actual release. It's your own little bit of meditational therapy. You're literally excreting from your body just emotion. But if you're not doing that, man, where's it going? Inside. And it comes back to that same analogy of like having something that's too heavy to carry. That is so important, man. So anyone that's listening to this or anyone that's got that far through the live stream, open up. Never be afraid to open up. It's always the scariest bit, is saying those first few words, but then you actually realize that more of us are in the same boat than not, and everyone's issues are relative to their own experiences. So it doesn't matter how silly yours feels compared to someone else's. You talking to them means that they can talk to you, which then they might be like, oh, well, I've never thought about talking to someone else. They go and do the same thing elsewhere, and we can all get through it together.
And do you know what? I think that something you said then, and in my videos that I've done, I've done a series of videos where I talk about dealing with the loss of my daughter. And in one of them, I talk about despair, right? So I'd never felt despair before I lost my daughter. And I got to the point of despair when, so there was a point where, so my missus was 36 weeks pregnant when we lost our daughter. So my son was born 12 days later. And there was a point where once we were at the hospital and we've been told Emily had passed away, that Beck said, oh, the baby hasn't moved. I haven't had the baby move today. And I thought, so then she went for a scan. They took her for a scan straight away. And I was sat in this room thinking, I remember thinking, what am I going to say to Bex if we've lost the baby? Like, I remember thinking I've lost both of them in one day, in the same day, right? And that was pure despair, right? Now, what? And at that moment, so prior to feeling that, I never truly understood, and I was probably a bit macho, alpha, naive about suicide. I was like, well, they're just like attention seekers, and they're inconsiderate because they throw themselves in front of a rush hour train and it stitches everyone up. And I honestly, like, I don't even like hearing myself say that now, but that was genuinely my thought. I had a really hard line with it, right?
Don't feel that, man, because I was same. But when I went through this moment of despair, now I'm not saying I was suicidal. I didn't have self-harm thoughts. But being at that point of despair, I can completely understand how people, because to me, nothing had any value at that point. My car, my house, my relationships with people. There was nothing I wanted to see outside. There was nothing I wanted to see inside. I did not give a fuck about like anything. And that's how I describe that feeling. And yeah, what drove me to despair to that point is something very heavy and but not everyone's got the same barometer. And what drove you to what I've called despair, what drove you to that point, and what drives someone else to that point is inconsequential. It's the fact that you're there and you need assistance, and
every single person you know and love is willing to give you that.
Well, I mean, what you say about the despair thing, and I can guarantee if we were to go back to that situation and I gave you the option to click and it just all be gone, you would take it because it seems so easy. But someone else's click is that jump in front of a train. It is doing something stupid because they just want it to stop because nothing makes sense. And it's like, you know, you can't even, you feel that, like you said, what are you going to say to your partner? How do you do like, there is no words. There is nothing. It would just be a lot easier if the ground just went hump and I didn't have to deal with it.
Yep.
But unfortunately, like I say, people find that in ways that, man, they're not thinking in their right mind, because I've come out of that now. And like I say, I feel detached from that situation because since then, I have those moments of clarity of like, I would have missed this. Like, and I would have, I just wouldn't have been here. Like, and that's unreal because it got better. But at the time, man, you can't think that far ahead. It just doesn't make sense. You just want that instant gone. I don't want to have to deal with the repercussions of this. I don't want to have to explain myself. I don't want to have to do any of these things. Yeah,
but also like I can see where it's going, and it's not good. You know, like mate, I get it, I completely get it. But right, I've taken too much of your time up, Joe.
No, man, it's been an absolute pleasure,
absolute pleasure having you on. I'm definitely going to hold you to the things that you've said. So getting you to come along to a Britball session and getting to throw some balls around and stuff.
Absolutely.
Or what someone said, let's just see. I've been grateful to get to know these guys and haven't spoken to them for a while, but now I can. Cool. Yeah, he's just saying about Ryan's just saying about his own mental health thing. Yeah, I think support networks are really important to establish, and you know we've got a group within Britball called Lifting the Lid, run by a guy called Wayne Drew, and he specifically targets British American football players about their mental health and stuff, which is awesome. But you got some love in the chat, Joe. So thanks, really enjoyed it. You really got called a Ryan legend, and thanks again from me, Joe. Right, we'll end that here, mate, and you can enjoy your evening. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll be back on Friday.
Top stuff. Lots of love, guys.